There's still no sign of the tiny radioactive capsule that's missing somewhere in Western Australia. It disappeared on a 1,400-kilometre journey between a Rio Tinto mine site at Newman in the state's north and Perth. Well, Dale Bailey is a professor of medical imaging science at the University of Sydney. He joins us now. Good morning to you, Dale. Be honest with me, when you heard this story, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
Well, it'll be like trying to find a needle in a haystack, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. But the hunt has got to go on, doesn't it?
It does, and we can't let this sort of thing just sit there and wait for somebody to pick it up.
What would happen if someone did do that?
Look, it's not a highly radioactive source. It's not as bad as what we might use in the hospitals in radiotherapy or blood sterilisers, but it certainly could cause damage to the skin. If you keep it in your pocket over a couple of hours, you'd probably get some reddening of the skin, some possible radiation burns. Anything longer that could lead to sort of more ulceration, that sort of thing. The big worry is if something like this was ever ingested and it did the same thing in your gastrointestinal tract. Could
it contaminate other areas then, rather than just physically putting it in your mouth, could it actually contaminate water sources or food sources?
I think it's highly unlikely. From what we know about this, it's encased in a metal case, and in that, it's the cesium itself is impregnated into a ceramic matrix, so it's not like it's a salt that could be dispersed and become soluble in water.
We just saw a quick shot then of a 10-cent coin because apparently it's smaller than that.
That's
How
right.
do they even go about starting to try and find it, Dale?
Well, the first thing is it's giving off radiation, which is the problem, of course, but that's actually the clue to finding it, that you can use sensitive detectors and in a pattern where you would sweep out what you're looking for, you'd be able to detect this, but you'd probably need to be within about 10 or 15 metres of it to detect it. Now, somebody asked the other day, could you use a metal detector? Well, I understand you usually need to get right on top of the source to get that, so that's not that sort of fine detail required, but certainly if a car fitted out with appropriate detectors moving in a measured pattern would possibly pick it up above the natural background levels that we have in the environment anyway.
Yeah, Michael was wondering before whether it could get stuck into a car tyre and end up in the garage of someone's house in suburban Perth.
Yeah, absolutely, or it could get crushed by, a road train that runs over it.
What happens then? What's the danger?
Then you've got a source that's been crushed, and it's going to spread a bit further. It's a bit more of a contamination issue. But once the location's known, it can be very easily managed.
So has this been a bit of sort of chat for people in your field over the last few days? Have you all sort of been thinking, God, this is a tough one?
Well, I'm in the hospital situation. I think that we think, how could this possibly happen? We know that for medical radiopharmaceuticals that we move around, hundreds of movements a day around Australia, that they're in one container inside another container, if not another container. So I guess the big question amongst the community is, how did it get out?
Yeah, all right. Well, Dale, thank you very much, Professor
Pleasure.
Bailey, for coming on the program and having a bit of a chat to us about it.
Thanks, Lisa.